Welcome to Savage Cash. Here with me today, your cryptocurrency superhero, Suppoman. What? Wrong show. Welcome to CryptoBuyology. I am AK. Of course, that was a joke. But today we will be talking about online crypto personalities. And of course, you know who I was just referring to. Of course, the one and only Suppoman. Everybody seems to know who he is, and rightfully so. He has a loud personality, and, why wouldn't they? So I wanted to get into some online personalities that I like to listen to, and then talk a little bit about where they fit in the whole grand scheme of things, and how you should view these online personalities. So, of course, number one, I listen to Suppoman. Not religiously, but I do watch him on YouTube or listen to him on the podcast when I'm driving. So the reason why I like Suppoman is when I first started getting into cryptocurrency, I knew nothing. And I watched a video of his on YouTube. And I actually did pay $10 and subscribe to his course only to get into the Facebook group. I have never watched one video, so I don't really know what his course is about. But I got into the Facebook group because back then, it feels like so long ago when I say back then, but realistically, it was probably back in May, June of this year. So, we're talking like 5 months. So 5 months ago, I really didn't know anything. I was so ignorant to cryptocurrency. Obviously, I just got into it and started fumbling my way through. And so I heard, I saw his video, and this guy's talking about how if you join his group, he has called a lot of correct calls on a lot of coins. So I'm like, cool, I didn't know this existed, so why not? So $10 is such a little amount in the grand scheme of things. So I joined his group and continued watching his videos. And after going through my learning experience, I realized that Suppoman is a great speaker and a great entertainer. And I love his personality. He's loud, obnoxious, but funny. I love his live feeds because he really he reads the comments and sometimes some explicits come out, and it's just funny how he interacts that way. So I love him for that. And there are things that I don't like about him. So, but all these people are useful. Otherwise I wouldn't listen to their podcast. But they're all useful to me, and they're all useful in different ways. So Suppoman is useful to me because he gives me entertainment, comedy, all that, talking about crypto, and also he brings attention to certain coins that I don't know about. I heard Walton when it came out on Binance, and I didn't know what it was, and he was the person that actually explained it, over a podcast. And I actually, when the whole China FUD thing was going down, and nobody knew where Walton was going to stand, and it dropped down under $1, I actually bought a bunch, and I'm actually still holding it. So I have him to thank because, if he didn't clarify what exactly it was all about, then I probably would have never bought it. So he once in a while will talk about some coins that I wasn't aware of in certain ways where I can understand it. So I have him to thank for that. And that's what I utilize him for, is comedic relief, entertainment, something to laugh at, something to listen in the background while I'm, doing web development, or driving in the car. Really like him for that. So the next podcast that I listen to is Chris Coney's CryptoVerse. And I don't know if a lot of you guys have heard of him, but he's from the UK, another guy from the UK. And he's big into, he does a market recap, which I don't really care about, because these markets move so fast that if you're paying attention every day, and if you're like kind of glued to the screen and, up to date on what's going on, then you don't really need a market recap. maybe if you work a 9 to 5 and you're just exhausted at the end of the day and you just need to hit that button and hear what happened that day, that's probably what it's good for. But I don't really care about that because I'm kind of aware. So, but he's really good about finding relevant news articles and really breaking it down and giving his cool perspective on things. And I really enjoy that. He really, talking about the forks and just things like that. Like he has a critical view on things and comes from like an alternative, like I don't want to say conspiracy angle, but he's very aware of things out there. And I think a lot of people in crypto are. So I like that angle from him. So that's why I'll listen to his podcast. And the third is a guy, I don't remember what his podcast name is, but it's Carter Thomas. So I think he also does it on YouTube. All these guys actually do YouTube and podcasts. So you can find them on iTunes, and I'll also include a list or links to each podcast under this video. But he talks about a lot of trend analysis, and his podcasts are kind of like what I do like now, where he's kind of just like talking to you like you're his friend and really getting into kind of like his style of trading and about his trades and talking about the psychology of trading and a lot of what this podcast is about. But I think I'm going way deeper into the psychology and social behavior aspect of it. That's really what I'm trying to do. So I'm going deeper than he is, but he does a lot of trend analysis, talking about scalping trades and really he does a lot of trades around Bitcoin and I guess he has a lot of, I don't want to say insiders, but a lot of people who trade the stock market. So he has a lot of insight that he brings over from that. So he's one to also listen to get that perspective. So I have 3 podcasts that I listen to, and they all bring me a different perspective. Another personality that I just wanted to throw out there that I don't particularly listen to, but he does have history with the cryptocurrency community, and that's Max Lee. And we all know him from Chaincoin, and I brought him up because I want to talk about it a little bit later about Chaincoin. I was a part of that. I don't want to say I was part of the community, but I did partake in Chaincoin. And that was actually what I was talking about in the last episode where I didn't sell at a tie. And, of course, I think a lot of people could have figured that one out. But that was Chaincoin. But Max Lee, again, I don't listen to him, but he definitely has a place in the community. I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing, but I did want to just bring that up because I do want to talk about him a little later. So really, all these guys, all these podcasts are useful in some ways. That's important to note. So everybody's useful. And it's important to identify how they're useful to you so that you can also draw the opposing view, which is how they're not useful. So, for instance, I know that Suppoman is useful for bringing coins to my attention that I don't know about, and for bringing comedy and entertainment into my life about cryptocurrency. So with that said, I'm not going to look to him for trend analysis because he doesn't do it. And anybody can see that after watching one of his videos. He's not doing trend analysis. I don't know if he even knows how to do trend analysis. I don't know that. But what I'm saying is utilize these personalities for what they're good for and what you get out of them. So the reason why I bring this to your attention is I often see so many people get angry at these personalities because they don't say what they want them to say, or they don't cover a certain coin or a certain subject, or they don't make certain comments that they want them to make. And so the reason why I brought up Max Lee is because I was in Chaincoin and I remember being in their Slack channel in their community, and people would often bring up Suppoman and be like, well, why isn't he talking about Chaincoin? Why isn't he, people in his Facebook group have mentioned it, and they're responsible for dumping, and on and on and on. So So people, every time Suppoman was brought up, people would get so angry at him because he's not covering Chaincoin. Or so then he finally covered Chaincoin, and then they were so angry that he didn't give Max Lee, all of the props for it, and he didn't say certain things the right way. Well, in Suppoman's defense, he really doesn't research in depth. Like if you watch his videos, he doesn't do that. He doesn't really, really, really research a topic before talking about it. And that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's just who he is. And that's so he can pump these things out. Because if he had to, then his podcast would be longer and he wouldn't cover as many subjects. And it would take him longer to get these out. So I know that he doesn't cover everything in depth. So I'm not going to then expect him to, because he doesn't. So if I want something covered more in depth, then I will either search YouTube for other videos on that subject, or I will find somebody else who does and then ask them to cover it. If I don't, if I'm looking for somebody to explain something to me. So a lot of people in that community were attacking Suppoman because he didn't do what they wanted him to do, or I say what they expected him to do. And I don't know if they expected him to do, but the point of this episode is to set expectations, or to not set expectations is really what I want to say. Don't have any expectations on these people. Know what they're good for, know what you get out of it, and only look for that out of them. Because if you're looking for something else, you're not going to get it. And then you're just going to be angry, and it's pointless. And everything that I talk about in these episodes, I'm really taking something that I talk about in my other podcast about life philosophy and applying it to crypto. So anything that I really talk about perspective-wise, you can really apply in your own life. So when I say don't have expectations, I know it's going to be a hard concept for somebody to take in, but it's important to not have expectations on anybody. Because if you have expectations, you are then setting yourself up to be disappointed. Because if you are ever expecting somebody to do something for you, then they're not, and if they don't do it, then you're going to be upset and frustrated and asking questions about why this isn't happening. And it's important that we don't do that, because then we're giving our power to these people. We're altering our mind and our behavior and our emotions. We're giving that all away to these people. And only we can choose how we want to feel. Nobody can make us feel sad or feel angry or feel frustrated. We choose to give in to that. So it's important to not have expectations. I know that's a mind blower, and a lot of people aren't going to really understand that, but just sit with it a little bit. And, I can go into it a little more in depth at another time, but just sit with it. Just take it on and think about it in your life. And just see how it can or can't apply, So basically, don't have expectations of these online personalities. They are there, and they're good at some things, but they're also bad at some things. I mean, we can't all be good at everything. So look to what they're good for you, and go to them for that. So identify what they do for you, what you get out of them, and then use them for that. And the last point I want to make is respect them for what they are good for, and don't expect them to be something else. So I respect the hell out of Suppoman, because he has been able to create this persona and, make money off of it. I'm not saying he's making a lot selling his courses, but he's doing all right. I mean, he has a big following. So he's able to do that. So I'm not going to be jealous because he put the time in. Don't be jealous because somebody else has succeeded in something. It's easy for me to sit back and and be jealous of Suppoman because he has a podcast. But I can have a podcast. I started one. So you can start one. If you feel like you have something different to say and to add to the conversation, please start one, because we need all the competition for information, as possible. Because only then do we get the best information. Of course, we can be overloaded with information, and we have to sort through the crap, but more information is good. Now, one other thing I want to say is, when you have knowledge, because everybody can have knowledge. Everybody can be book savvy or read or, go on the internet and watch YouTube videos. Everybody can have knowledge. But when you accompany that with experience, you get wisdom. So all these people out there who go to college and they think they're so smart because they book learned, and then they get out in the real world and they struggle, in the real world because they lack wisdom. Whatever they studied, they don't have, hours doing that in the real world. So they don't have the experience. So they lack wisdom. So that's why everybody looks to older people for wisdom, because they've been there and done that. They've had the experiences. And of course, you can't have one without the other. So you can't have knowledge and not have experience to get wisdom. And you can't have experience without the knowledge to get wisdom. Because if you have experiences and you don't know, and you can't analyze them, and you don't know what your experiences were for, then, you don't have wisdom. So, for instance, I'm a web developer, but I started teaching myself when I was 13 how to code. And so that was real world experience, making websites in the real world. Of course, it wasn't, in a job situation. But then I went to a tech college for 2 years because I thought I needed a degree, when in reality, you don't really need a degree. You can actually learn all this online now for free and make good money. But I went to a college and I got a degree, and I pretty much didn't learn too much. I learned way more on my own. So then when I got my first job, the amount of information that I learned just doing that job was crazy. It was way more than I ever learned in college. So, and through that, and through having, trial and error, and going through issues in the real job, and then having to solve them with real clients and real deadlines, that's when you gain wisdom. And then you become a better employee. And you can hack into that wisdom as you go and just keep adding to it. So I just wanted to add that on the end, because I think it's important that everybody goes through cryptocurrency learning. And again, I'll talk about more of this in other episodes, but the more it's important to read, and listen to these podcasts, gain knowledge. And knowledge is just a bunch of information. So you don't even know if it's right or wrong because you haven't had experiences yet. So the experiences take the knowledge and determines what knowledge is good and what knowledge is bad. And you want to, basically, wisdom is the emptying of knowledge, because we go through our entire lives accumulating all this knowledge. And, great, you have all this knowledge, who cares? But when you go through and you throw out everything that is pointless or doesn't apply, then you're left with the good stuff. You're left with the wisdom. So go through your cryptocurrency career, if you want to call it that. Listen to these podcasts, take in all the information, and then apply it. Listen to everybody, though, because you never know who's going to be right. You never know who is going to be your teacher. Could be anybody. Could be a troll on YouTube. You don't know until you have that experience. So gain all the knowledge you can, but have the experiences, but do it consciously. And then check back and be like, okay, well, I knew this, this, and this about the subject, but when I actually went through it, this was right. And the next time this comes up, I'm going to do this. And the next time it comes up, if you do that and it works out again, then probably throw it in your wisdom box and dump all the rest. So that is the end of this episode. I hope you guys gained a lot of wisdom. Obviously, it'd be knowledge, but gained a lot of knowledge out of this episode and really apply it into your life and turn it into wisdom. So again, I will throw all of the links to the 3 iTunes or YouTube podcast/videocasts that I listen to, so you guys can check them out if you have not and you're interested. And just to let you know, this podcast has been added to Stitcher and iTunes so far. So you can definitely find us on there and stream us right to your mobile device. Again, I thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.